Hey there, this is Steve back at Dig Dug Gold, and I think I have a different way of using the silicone than what we originally had thought about. Many of us are experimenting with silicone mats and that kind of thing, and I think I want to try and take us down a different path using the silicone, see if it works. If it does, for people like me who don't really have a work area to work from or have the ability to function with tools, that kind of thing, I'm not real good with my hands. So I've found that it's been very, very difficult putting together molds. I don't have the money to buy a 3D printer either to produce molds that way. I think Alan is planning on selling some of his 3D printer stuff, which I would, I've already told him that I want to buy them for sure to help him pay off that 3D printer, because those are kind of expensive. But for those of us on a shoestring budget, I think I figured out a way that might work. So if you're willing to stick around and watch, this is going to be a short video on how to do that. Okay? All right, we'll be right back.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Okay, so the concept is real simple. What we're doing is we're taking a mat that I bought at Home Depot, 12 by 12 or thereabouts. Cost me $2.40. I'm going to take silicone and I'm going to accentuate the ribbon here. And then once that's dry, then I'll cover the mat, the rest of the mat, this part here, the empty spaces here, with the silicone to waterproof it, I guess, and to also make it so that it becomes, by proxy, I guess, a silicone mat on top of a rubber mat. Silicone, because of the carpet, should stick to it and knead itself into there. So I'm thinking that this would be a cheap, very cheap way to do this. So let me go ahead and do this, see what it looks like, and then we'll wait for it to dry. Hopefully it'll dry by tomorrow. Okay, back. So I had a little bit of a catastrophic failure there. So what I ended up doing is, in the midst of making my ribs, I ended up just go ahead and saturating the mat, which was probably what I should have done anyway. One of the things that I've always wondered since we got into these silicone mat things is how it would react to carpeting. So if you buy carpeting and siliconed it, in other words, immersed it or saturated the silicone, the mat into the silicone, or the silicone on the mat, how would that affect your returns, and how would that affect it? After seeing all the experiments and doing a few of my own online with Ala Robertson, Utah Avalanche, and a few other people, I kind of thought that maybe that might be a good way to go, at least to start, until you got to the point where you could afford to buy a 3D printer or buy them from somebody that would print them for you. The only problem is, of course, is that I've been peeling silicone off my fingers for the last half hour, and probably will be for the several hours to come. But so far so good. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so the mat doesn't look any different, right? It's just it's coated with silicone. So once that dries, then I'm going to throw it over into my sluice box on the end there, and I've got another contraption I'm working on, a double fluid bed system. And I'll put my wonderful clay that tests everything out to the max through that, and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, when I'm ready to show you that, and show you how to put that together. If it works, then I'll do that. So anyway, I'll show you in a little bit how the silicone sluice box mat works, just saturating a carpet. Hey, incidentally, I think I found a cure for biting fingernails for you guys that do that. Dab a little silicone on your fingernails and on your fingertips, let it dry, forget about it, and then try to bite your fingernails. Cured! Okay, hey, that dried really fast on that carpet. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to have to finish this up tomorrow. So anyway, I've installed it in, and I'm going to do a wet run. Wet run is, of course, not a dry run. So wet run is running water down there. I'm going to use a new fluid bed contraption I put together yesterday, and just see how the flow works. I've got it leveled out. I put my level on top of my sluice box, and so we'll take a look at how that goes. Okay, as you see, there's my level. We're perfectly level. And the end mat is the one that I saturated with silicone. Then of course there's my tile mat, the silicone tile mat. Surprisingly, that's starting to break down. I've only used it 3 times, so we may have to figure something else with that. I got a little bit of a skid plate there. Thanks to Utah Avalanche, he told me to rearrange my mats a little bit. I have an overlap because I was having trouble with the tile mat floating on the water, and I also had carpet underneath that, so I took that out, and the silicone mat is actually to the aluminum itself. And then I put a dampener mat, instead of putting it underneath, I put it over the top. So let's do a wet run and see what happens. Okay, so the fluid bed system is setting up. I still got some quirks I got to work out of that yet. We won't be running this real quick for too long, because it tends to fill up real quick and starts making a mess. So let's see how it goes. Oops, see, just like that. So I do have a pedestal underneath it, but it didn't hold it. So it's something I got to work out. So anyway, here's the water. Even flow, going down nicely, and there it is. So let that run for a few minutes, and okay, now it's back up on its own. On the contraption there, you take a look at that, because I'm going to make a separate video on that. Hey, it's running pretty good. Awesome. Pretty even flow. Alright, so we'll stop it, and then we'll check the mat and see how it is. And it goes down. Okay, so now we'll head on over there and we'll see what it looks like. Okay. Just a couple places where silicone didn't quite get in all the way, but other than that, look, you can see all the bubbles in there where the silicone is nicely saturated. That's looking pretty good. And then there's the regular carpet without the silicone, completely soaked. That carpet's dry. Look at that. Nice and dry. The water's still on it. Okay? Looking good. Okay, now I've got my concentrates from the last run in the fluid bed. This is a 2-chamber system. So as you saw, it boils up over the top. And I use another tray as a kind of a holding pond, and let it drain out, so that if there's any gold that escapes there for some other reason, then I can figure out. Then I've got another holding pond here that I can use as a secondary source for fluid bed. And then it comes out the hole. I've got several holes drilled in there, and then it'll run on down there. So we'll turn it on and give it a shot. we are. We're filling up. Look at all that sooty mud, all that clay, nasty clay. That's why I made the fluid bed. So it could soak that clay up. Yeah, let's see, it's all bubbling. Now what I'm not sure about is at what point do I turn this off and let it stop boiling. So we're just going to kind of have to observe it and see what happens. It's not overflowing in the back, so that's good. I don't have any leaks underneath, that's good. And it's doing what it's supposed to do. Still in level. Yep, okay. So we're still in level. Now I'm noticing that mat is starting to float now a little bit. So I may have to put a dampener mat, some type of dampener over the top of that. Maybe tuck it underneath the tile silicone mat, the silicone tile mat there. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not holding it anymore, it's on its own. Completely on its own now. Just bubbling out nice, nice as can be. Okay, we've got several holes. We got a big hole on the top, and we've got kind of a pyramid, the smaller holes. Within probably 2.5, 3 inches from the bottom. So it won't boil out, that is. Alright. Take a look around it. So anyway, as you can see, I used a Lutz special mix that I got at Sam's Club. Ate it, of course. Didn't just throw it out. I ate it. And I looked at it and going, you know what, I wish I could make a fluid bed out of that. So I did. And it's working. It's working great. So I'm going to have to show you how I made that, and then we'll do it again on another video. Also found a sprinkler system here to help me not leak out of my faucet. It's a nice little conversion there. I'll carry that through to my bucket blaster I got underneath there. So I guess the idea here is to use the bucket blaster to blast through that clay. And once it's blasted through, I can change over to a fluid bed system, so I can drain the clay off and just have the rocks and hopefully the gold in the bottom, wash it off. And then if I need to, I can always either pan it, or I can create a second little fluid bed, kind of like what Doc at Gold Hog made. Those things work great. The nice thing I like about this can fit in that pail, that can over there, and you can just run that instead of running a sluice box. I like having a sluice box because, like I told you, I'm not real good with mechanical stuff, not real good with my hands. So, I'm learning all this first time. I'm a truck driver, so I sit on my butt and hold a steering wheel, not on one side of the ear. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'll shut it off and we'll see what we got in the bottom there. Okay, here we are. Here's the end result. So everything's completely turned off. Still have my fluid bed up. It's the water hasn't drained out of that yet, so that'll work that through. But this film is about the silicone mat. So anyway, where it's been thoroughly saturated, it's still dry. It's still dry on the top. I think it's dry. It's wet coming from the bottom because it did lift up, I noticed, as we were running. But I think that's a great way to get going with the silicone mats. A simple DIY is go to Home Depot, buy a ribbed matting, there. It cost this one cost $2.48 per yard. Take silicone, put it over the top, make sure it's well saturated, let it dry. Might want to do the other side, because then you could use it as a milling table mat, and then you've got something that you can work with silicone wise until you can have enough money and know-how to be able to produce something like that, or something like Allen or Utah Avalanche is putting out. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and most definitely comment. I love the comments. Okay, thank you.